Good morning, Father Gerry.
Hi, good morning, Shelly.
So we've come to have another chat with you,
Yes.
which is a great way to help our parishioners
Mm-hmm.
to get to know our priests.
All right.
And today our topic of discussion is going to have to do with your vocation, your call to be a priest.
Yeah. People seldom hear priests talking about their vocation, but today I'm going to reveal everything.
Well, we look forward to it.
Yeah.
So why don't we just ask the big question first?
Mm-hmm.
How did you become a priest?
Well, you know what? Shelly. It's like anyone else. I grew up as a normal boy who has grown with friends in the Philippines. I received the sacraments from friends in the area who are working with our Catholic chapel. My parents were not practicing Catholics. My father was not even a Catholic himself. My mother is a Catholic, but not so active. And I studied in a public school when I was in the elementary, but high school, I went to a Catholic school where at least I learned about more about Catholic faith. And when I was a teenager, uh, first, first year in exact, my something tragic happened in my life. My father died,
Oh, sorry.
and he left us really unprepared with so much, issues financially. Also, I had to stop schooling because my mother could not support me anymore. So I had to go back home and, just to be with my mom. And at that time, we struggled to survive. We depended so much on farming. My siblings, we they were young as well at the time. So we had to learn the hard way because there's no other way to keep our lives going. So we have to work and find ways in order to survive. So with so much hardship, I was thinking and praying to alleviate the poverty of my family. At that time, that was my concern. With seven siblings, that's not easy. You couldn't rely on farming alone. We had to pay the loans, to the bank. And there was a time when we almost lost our small farm because of the loans left by my father.
Hmm.
Then I got an idea. You know, I had to look for a job as a young person. So I became a gasoline boy. At that time, they only give me 12 pesos a day. And if you convert that into dollars, that's only like not even a dollar a day. So, but then I had to be patient because I was young and they can give as long as I have something to put it in my pocket or just to spend something. And at least I can buy food and sometimes I had to skip my meal
Wow.
so that I have something for my baby brother and my sister. To buy rice, to buy noodles, a loaf of bread, a pack of sugar or coffee. Because poverty really hit us. And because of that, having to drink a coffee or have a bread was already a luxury for us. We just had to survive and fill our stomach, you know. But with my poor condition, I never forgot to pray that if God really loves me and if God loves my family, He has to show me the way to support them. And I said, I'm willing to sacrifice everything just for the sake of my family. So I was able to support my schooling by working in different types of job, from being a gasoline boy, a gas boy, a cleaner, a messenger. I even worked as a part-time writer in one of the radio stations in our place. but I did not survive because it's a night shift.
Ah,
Yeah, I work during the day and go to school at night. So it was really hard for me. But you know, Shelly, my prayer sustained me. I did not forget to pray to God and ask Mama Mary always to help me. I remember when I was in college, I met some seminarians who taught us to sing at the church. So I started singing in the church. And these seminarians, they introduced me to the many aspects of service in the church. That's when I fell in love with the Mass, the Eucharist, and Mama Mary in particular. So I developed the habit of going to Mass early in the morning, at 5. Imagine at 5 in the morning with the old people who would wake up in the morning. And in that daily Mass, I would always, if I have to see around, I was the youngest, but I didn't bother. I was not being bothered by that because, to pray and to get the blessings were my priorities in going to church at that time. One day while in one of the masses, one of the priests assigned in our local church, the name is Father Jose Ingalan, but he died before I became a priest. And noticed me that I would always be present at the Mass. So one time he approached me and asked me, hey, how would you like to take the aptitude exam for priesthood? So the first reaction was, but Father, I am poor. I am poor and I have no father to support me in my seminary formation. Because at that time, the seminarians in our place, seminary is only for, that notion, only for the rich. And it's only for prominent families. But the priest said to me, Gerry, just trust God and He will find a way.
ah.
He'll find a way. Well, in order not to disappoint the priest, I said, well, Father, I can try. I can try. So he accompanied me to go to the diocese with the other 20, if I remember it right, with 20 boys with their mothers and fathers. They were accompanied by their parents. And at the bishop's house, I was so embarrassed because I was not with my parents, not even a mother or a father. So the question of the bishop really struck me. And I remember the question, how much your parents could afford to support you in the seminary? And I said to the bishop, well, Bishop, I don't have anything. A father died. I only have my struggling mother. I'm poor. We are poor. But I said to the bishop, but Bishop, I can give my life to God. I didn't know why those words came from my mouth. But maybe my angel taught me what to say. Okay?
That's a powerful story so far, Father.
Yeah.
You're a poor young man,
Mm-hmm.
a little intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up in the seminary?
That's also very interesting, Shelley, because, when I was interviewed by the bishop, I was already in my last few months to finish my college days. So my mother was so excited that if I would land any job, I could help her financially in lieu of my father. And to cut it short, my mother was hoping for me to play the role, at least to help her. But every day, while I couldn't get over with the words that I said to the bishop. I would always remember, I am poor, but I can give my life. That stuck into my mind. But it kept on hitting me. So the priest and the bishop gave me the, after how many days, the priest and the bishop gave me the result of the attitude exam. And they were so happily informed me that among the 30 boys who had taken up the test, 10 passed the aptitude exam. And one of them is your servant
Oh.
in front of you.
So I imagine the next thing you had to do was try to convince your mother that God was calling you. How did that work?
Oh my God, that's very emotional. And let's see if I could share that. Just imagine the first talk. The first moment when I informed my mother about that, and I jokingly said, "Mama, Mama, I'm going to be a priest." And the reaction was, "What? Are you joking? Are you qualified to be one?" And she said to me, "Remember, we are poor. To become a priest is only for the rich. We are poor. And don't you see our condition, our life without your father? Are you insane? Are you still thinking? Are you thinking of your siblings? Are you thinking of your younger brothers or your younger brother and your sister? Who will help me with all of this? Your father left us. He's no longer with us. So if you go to the seminary and become a priest, you know what he said to me?
What she said.
Forget about your family. You don't really care about me and you don't care about your family. So when I heard that, I really cried. And I couldn't express in words what it means to give life to God. I didn't know how to convince her that giving to God is not only a matter of having material goods, but you can give something else. Usually for 2 weeks, my mother did not talk to me.
That would be painful.
Yeah. But comes the day before the deadline of submitting my decision to the bishop. I had decided not to go anymore in seminary. But I cried every day. And I really did not know what to do. There was something inside me. And I could only pray to God for guidance. That if it's His will, that if I'm meant for priesthood, then God should give me the courage to take my life and to convince my mother. Usually that night, I stayed outside praying. And I was crying and I felt I was so tormented. Choosing between the two, what I want for God and what my family needs, especially my mother. So I decided to talk to God. And I made a deal with God. And I asked Him, Lord, give me a sign that you really want me to be one. So, late at night, I entered our house in the living room and I slept. You know what happened?
What happened?
I dreamed of Jesus. I dreamed of the crucified and I saw Jesus' knees bleeding, with the blood dripping from his knees. So when I woke up in the morning, I cried, but I still want to be clear about if this is true or not, if if this is a joke or something. So wake up in the morning before 5 o'clock. I walk to the church. So when I entered the church, I made another deal, and I said, Lord. So I was in tears, and I made another deal. Lord, if I see somebody inside the church wearing anything red, that means you want me. Let's make a deal. So while we're having the mass, seated in one, back pews, I was looking around. And I was so worried already because I could not see anyone wearing not even a single red. So when the mass was finished, I decided to go out. I was the first one to step towards the door. And at the last part of my, my walking, the mass was already over. There was a lady, everything in red. The lady in red. Well, her shirt was red. The bag was red. The shoes she was wearing, everything in red. So I went back to the church and knelt down. And at that time, I knelt down and said, "Oh Lord, yes, I am convinced that you really want me to be one. So please help me." As I was walking towards, to the house, I was crying because, I don't know how to convince my mom. But without my knowledge, the priest already talked to my mom.
Oh gosh.
And when I was at the door, my mother embraced me. She said, "My son, I cannot compete with the Lord. Well, if that's the kind of life you want, you may go. God knows that I love you. God knows that I need you. But I'm convinced that God loves you more. I'm going to offer you, my son, to God."
Father, that is such a powerful testimony of how God called you to the priesthood. Here at St. Anthony's, we're very grateful that God called you
Yeah.
then and called you to us. You bring a beautiful spirit of humility and poverty
Yeah.
to this parish family, and we look forward to more interviews
Yes,
and to
why
learning
not?
the next step of
Yes.
your journey.
I have more interesting stories about my priesthood.
We'll
My
come
early
back.
priesthood, yes. I promise you that if we have another chance, I'm willing to share, because priesthood is meant only not for myself. My priesthood is for the people, for everyone. And if
Thank you.
people could learn from it, that's a gift. That's a blessing.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Shirley, for asking the questions about my priesthood.
Okay.
Have a nice day. I miss you.
Until next time.
Yes. Bye.